And honestly, like, I love the process. I love being a professional runner. I love going out every day and training. It's not to say that every day is easy, but I love it. And I love the hard days. I love the good days. And to be honest with you, I love Western States. I love everything about that race. You know, I love the community. I love the vibe. I love the trails. I love the pain that I have to go through in that race, and I crave it. You know, I love the process of getting ready for that race. Everything about that race and that atmosphere, I love. And that's kind of where it comes down to, is like, there's not been a race out there that I've ran or I've been at or experienced that I love as much as Western States.
Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspects of running and what helps people to achieve success, however they define it, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. We are proud to share that this episode is sponsored by our friends over at Puma. Here at For the Long Run podcast, we're fans of Puma and have been really impressed with their efforts to support and foster the running community. We're excited to partner with a brand that has such a rich history in sports and that cares deeply about the running community. Puma believes that sometimes all it takes is a spark to make a change, to get motivated, or to try something new or hard. And we couldn't agree more. All we need is that small spark, and the actions will follow to get us there. With that small flicker, anything is possible. Puma running shoes offers supreme cushioning, superior propulsion, comfort, and lightweight technology. I've been running in the DV8 Nitro First Mile, and I love how it has a focus on sustainability. The shoe feels amazing, and even better, it's in collaboration with First Mile. It's made from at least 20% recycled material, as First Mile's focus is on cutting down plastic waste in production and in the supply chain by finding innovative ways to get recycled plastic into products like Puma running shoes. Check out a pair for yourself at puma.com and use the code FORTHELONGRUN for 20% off any Puma Run or Train products. When you support Puma, you support me and the rest of the For the Long Run podcast team. Thanks again to Puma for sponsoring us. For most of us runners, we are constantly fitting our training into a very busy schedule. Between work, families, and other responsibilities, this means a lot of running happens in the dark. And that's the one thing I love about runners, that this doesn't dissuade them, it motivates them. They see darkness as an opportunity for growth rather than an obstacle. That's why we're excited that this episode is sponsored by Petzl. Whether you're a get up before the kids and get your run in, or a trail runner with big mountain goals, you need a headlamp that keeps your path light and bright. We all know that tripping over stuff sucks, and we should do everything we can to avoid that. I've been using Petzl headlamps for years, and they've kept my trail lit up for long days out there, and nights. And just like how we feel about the sign of a good running shoe, a great headlamp is one that you completely forget that you're wearing. If you're in the market for a new headlamp, we highly recommend Petzl. I personally use the Now RL, and it's so bright for every occasion. Pick yours up at the local gear shop or over at petzl.com. And remember, when you support our brand partners, you support the For the Long Run podcast and team. We are proud to announce the newest sponsor of the podcast, Scratch Labs. Scratch Labs is a local, Boulder-based sports nutrition brand known not just for their awesome sports nutrition products, but for their love of science and the community. I'll share a bit more about their products and how I use them, but for now, thank you to Scratch for supporting the podcast. Scratch will be a partner of the podcast this summer, and as always, supporting the brands that support the podcast helps to keep this machine rolling. You can use the code FTLR20 for 20% off all Scratch products through their website via the link in the show notes.
All right.
And we're live. We got Hayden Hawks in the studio.
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Yeah, it's a nice rainy day here in Boulder, so we're just hanging out and then gonna jump in the sauna after, right?
We're gonna do that. We're under the lights. The listeners will find out. I'm sure you're a big baseball fan, so we've got the bright lights here. What's your walk-up music? What should we be doing? What should we be bumping right now?
Oh man, well I posted a reel the other day on my social media account, and it was "Put On" by Young Jeezy. So that was kind of my go-to walk-up song when I was younger. And I know it's kind of old school rap now, I guess, to the young guys. But
yeah, do you know what that song is?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, not until you showed me.
So we've got a fellow runner in the room here. He's staying with Hayden.
Yeah.
Who do we have in the corner over here?
Yeah. We got a young trail crusher here. His name's Sebastian Salisbury. He's from Santa Barbara. He's a kid that I've mentored for the last couple of years now, and just a really good friend of mine as well. He actually helps crew me at Western States every year. And yeah, we've been having some fun, taking him up in the mountains here. Been hanging out with Matt Daniels, went to his cabin last night. And we've been actually teaching him some rap history, getting him actually, I got acquainted with real rap, not the new stuff today that really is not rap. So,
so one of the things that I love about you is you're a super talented athlete, but there's like so much more to you than just that. And we see that a little bit with your social presence, but like to get to know you over the last few months and like hear more about what makes you tick has been super cool. And what I've learned, the Hayden Hawks summary is I'm here to help other people. And there's someone literally sitting in this room who you are helping and mentoring, which is super cool. I want to dive into that and much more. But before we get too far into this discussion, I'm going to ask you a question I don't think I asked you the first time we did a podcast together. Who is Hayden?
Who's Hayden? Oh, that's a good question, man. I don't even know if I know exactly who Hayden is. I just try to be the most genuine person that I can possibly be. And honestly, I try to be the type of person who kind of likes everything, here we are talking about rap music, but I love country music too. I love any type of music. I love flat running. I love mountain running. I love traveling the world and seeing all these different cultures and people. And I just try to be a genuine person, and I try to like take in everything, that I see in this world, because I think there's so much to learn from in this world, from different cultures, from different people, from all those different things. Like, I don't know if I can narrow myself down to being a specific type of person. I just try and be everything, because that's who I am. I love life. I'm a family man. And I just try to be the best person that I possibly can and help as many people as I possibly can. And I guess be my best self. And honestly, at the end of the day, if that's all I can be is be my best self, I know I've done well, with my life and for that day.
We were on a run a few weeks ago and we got to talking about faith. And I think we spent like the entire return down Bobo talking about your faith and how that plays a role in your life. You said some super interesting things, and I'm curious to hear more about that in this conversation around, you talk about why you're here, you talk about the reason for motivation, where it comes from. I guess the short question or the acute question here is, how does faith play into your role you're being paid as a professional athlete, but you're also a dad, you're a brother, you're a family man. You've talked about it being sort of the anchor point. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I get this question a lot from people, actually. It's pretty interesting. I am a man of faith. Like, I do believe in God and I believe in Jesus Christ. And, I believe that faith can come in many forms, but that's how I worship, is I worship a God and I worship Jesus Christ personally. But others, worship other beings or other, spiritual entities that give them, I guess, strength or give them motivation. And I would say that my faith, my Christian faith, brings me a lot of strength. It gives me a lot of balance in life. Running is big in my life. Of course, I'm a professional athlete. I focus a lot on being the best that I can. I train really, really hard. And I love it. I love training hard and I love working hard. But honestly, I'm much more than that. And that's where my faith comes into play. My faith, it's an anchor to my family. It's an anchor to me as a dad. It helps me be a better dad, a better husband, helps me to be a good friend to other people, to be an honest person. And I think that's most important to me than anything. That means way more than me than the running does. At the end of the day, I come home, my kids love me for who I am as a person, as a dad. My wife loves me for who I am. She didn't fall in love with me because I was a runner. She fell in love with me because of the man I am and because of my faith and my beliefs and my I guess my drive and my talent, not my talents, but my motivation. And honestly, that means more to me than anything. And so I say that's what that faith does, is it gives me that strength to be more than just a runner, but it also gives me strength in running where I can rely on that and know that like, even if I have a bad day or if I have a bad workout or whatever it is, at the end of the day, I'm coming home to kids and a family and my beliefs. And that gives me balance because I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. I don't put a lot of pressure in racing, in workouts or anything because I am more than a runner, you know? And I think that's where my faith comes into play and it helps me. But you know, like people probably have caught me praying in races sometimes. And I do rely on my relationship with my faith and God because I believe He gives me strength. And so I do sometimes will pray in a race or rely on that. And I think that helps me a lot in my racing and my workouts and my talents and abilities as well.
It was cool to learn that you don't run on Sundays. And so you're doing 130 miles a week with like a true rest day from running, but you're out there hiking with your family. And I think that's super cool.
Yeah. It's kind of just been a goal of mine ever since I started running is, you know, I go to church on Sunday. I really love, you know, worshiping on Sunday and being around a community, a church community. I found a lot of just, I guess community and social interaction there. And I volunteer at the church. You know, I help with a lot of the local youth groups there. You know, I give talks in church. I do all these different things, and I really enjoy that part of my life. And so, like, my thought was always like, well, I'm going to dedicate myself to going to taking off Sunday because Sunday is a day where I can go do that. I can stay away from the running and focus on some other things in my life. So I focus on that. And I also focus on spending time with my family because my family sacrifices a lot for me. You know, running 130 miles in 6 days is not easy. It takes up a lot of time. And that's not all I'm doing. You know, I'm a coach. I'm a lot of other things.
A sauna fanatic.
Exactly. And, you know, my wife sacrificed a lot. My kids sacrificed a lot. And so I can at least spend one day with them and literally just devote all my time and attention to them on that day. So that's what I do. And honestly, it actually helps me because it makes me more excited to start training on Monday again. And it, again, comes back to that balance. It gives me a lot of balance.
I think a lot of people who are listening to this can probably appreciate or it resonates whether or not they're a person of faith, but they're like, wow, he does things other than runs really fast. And I can relate to that. And in this climate of like more, everyone wants to do more. Everyone's chasing goals. I was guilty of like picking a time goal and singularly focusing on that. And like, I'm not a good enough runner unless I can break 3 hours in the marathon. And I was doing some reflecting. I was back in Rhode Island this past weekend for a wedding and happened to be running on the bike path that the Providence Marathon was on. And in that reflection, I was like, wow, this reminds me of, you know, miles 11 through or 15 through 20 in this race. And it just like stirred up a lot of like what that race did to me and the pursuit of like getting better. And that was the piece that for me, it was like no, it's not the time that matters. It's the process and the way that you've talked about how focused you are on like enjoying what you're doing and having balance and doing all these other sorts of things. Like this is what makes us better as humans and better runners, but not better than other people, but just better than previous versions of ourselves. And so to me, that's where this like, you can use the running as a vehicle to like get the most out of yourself and then bring it to those other places where you can see that progress. But it's so cool how that's anchored in the piece of the puzzle for you where it's like, you're not running on Sundays. And so it's not, you don't wake up thinking about, oh, I'm so dialed in what I eat for breakfast and I need to think about that and make sure I poop properly and then get out the door and this and that. It's just like, nope, you're focused on your family. And it's really cool how that happens.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too is like, I'm an ultra runner, you know, like I don't need to be completely dialed in because in an ultra, nothing's ever going to go exactly as you've planned. Like something bad is going to happen. And learning how to adapt and learning how to adjust in those situations is so key in ultra running. And so like if I put too much pressure in dialing everything in, you know, of course I want to work hard and I'm going to dial as much as I can in, but I also have flexibility knowing that like, hey, It doesn't have to be perfect. And I need to enjoy the process because honestly, at the end of the day, I enjoy the process more than the racing. If I have to be completely honest with you, I enjoy training. I enjoy getting out and just running and training with friends and and hitting these training goals. That actually is more fun to me sometimes than the actual race. Like I love racing, don't get me wrong. And I think it's very important to have big goals and to set, these lofty goals that you want to go after because that's what motivates the training. But you have to enjoy the process throughout all of that. And it's the same thing with life. Like you have to enjoy the process of life. Like if you're just focused so much on the end goal, whether that be getting to heaven or whatever it is, like you're going to miss so much along the way. You're going to miss your kids growing up. You're going to miss all these moments with your friends and your families. And so I like to live in the moment. Like I like to live day by day and really focus on, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go run up Green Mountain today and I'm going to enjoy this training session. I'm going to enjoy these steps. And then that workout that I have planned for Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it is, like I'm going to go and I'm going to crush that workout. And I'm going to, focus on the process of getting to where I want to be. And I think that's really what gives me a lot of balance. And, I guess that being a family man and my faith and all those kind of helps balance that all out and helps me not be so anal about everything and just realize that like, hey, I'm an ultra runner and it's actually good to have a little bit of flexibility and be a little nonchalant about things.
Totally. So it's a good 10-minute build up to the question that made me think to ask you if we could do another podcast. So for those who have been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that Hayden and I had a conversation in June of 2019, is episode 30 something, and this will be 270, something like that. So I've gotten super curious in the last 50 to 150 episodes in particular around like, what does it actually take to be excellent? And what does it take to achieve things that society deems as conventionally successful? And then what can the rest of us learn from people who have achieved really cool things or really awesome things? And how can we apply it to our life? So that's basically what this podcast has turned into. Like, how can I learn from you and disseminate that information into the ears of the people that are listening right now? And then take what you're saying in the next 50 guests and sort of do a little meta-analysis of all of that and ask better questions in 50 more episodes. And so the question I asked you a few weeks ago was, why do you want to win Western States? And you answered along the lines of, because it's what got me into the sport. It's what made me want to be a trail runner. And I was like, that's cool. But like, why do you want to win Western States? Yeah. And you didn't answer. And you texted me the next morning saying, man, I've been thinking about that for a while. So that was like a month ago. So why do you want to win Western States?
Because I love it. I think love should drive everything. There's the whole good, better, best thing where, there's a good motivation, there's a better motivation, and there's a best motivation. And this kind of goes back to my faith as well, is love. Love for people, that's why I want to help people. Love for God, that's why I want to follow God, or whatever, faith you are. Love for Western States, love for the sport, love for ultra running, love for training, love for anything like that. That's what motivates it. And honestly, like I love the process. I love being a professional runner. I love going out every day and training. It's not to say that every day is easy, but I love it. And I love the hard days. I love the good days. And to be honest with you, I love Western States. I love everything about that race. I love the community. I love the vibe. I love the trails. I love the pain that I have to go through in that race. And I crave it. I love the process of getting ready for that race. Everything about that race and that atmosphere, I love. And that's kind of where it comes down to, is like, there's not been a race out there that I've ran or I've been at or experienced that I love as much as Western States. And so like I told myself, I'm going to prepare myself. And then when I feel ready, I'm going to run this race. Because like we talked about, that's what kind of got me started in the sport, was hearing, some local people talk about that race and some guys that had grown up in that area and talk about it at the St. George Running Center when I was living in St. George. But as when I prepared myself and got ready, and I felt ready to run that race, I went into it with just this deep love. And that love just grew and grew as I've done it the last 2 years. And, I haven't won the race yet, but I promised myself when I first ran the race in 2021 that I was going to keep going back until I won it, or at least until I felt accomplished with it. I don't quite feel accomplished with it yet because I haven't nailed it yet. I haven't done what I know I can do. I've made a lot of mistakes over the last 2 years. And, I still took second place, making a lot of mistakes, but I feel like there's things I can learn and I can grow from, and I can nail that race. And if I nail that race and I feel like I've nailed that race and I still end up second place, that's just what it is. But I'm not ready to give up on that race until I get to that point because I love that race.
I was sitting on the broadcast with Dylan as you came in last year, and I've never seen that much emotion you need to be at a finish line like that to see that kind of emotion. It was super cool to see. Okay, let's say you finished in one higher position than you have in the past. What does that mean?
I guess it kind of validates all the hard work and the sacrifice that I've put in and my family has put in and my coach. I'm coached by a great coach named Robbie Britton. And he actually comes out and paces me every year at Western States and crews me. And we've put in a lot of thought. We've put in a lot of training. I flew out to the UK to do testing in a lab to try and dial in everything I could for Western States. We've been working with one of my sponsors, Precision Hydration, to dial in my hydration and my fueling. And they've just been awesome at sharing their knowledge with me. And I feel really good about my nutrition going in this year. To be honest with you, I feel so much more prepared this year than I did last year on every aspect.
You got the iron level up?
Yeah, exactly. Working with Inside Tracker and getting tests done with them has helped me a ton. And, it's just all these things. It's not just me that's sacrificing to get me ready for this race, but it's all of my sponsors. It's my family. It's my crew. It's my friends. There's a lot going into it. That doesn't put any pressure on me because we love it. We all love that process and, we're having fun doing it, but it would mean a ton. And it wouldn't just mean me. It would mean a ton to everyone else. And I think that means more to me than anything is what it would mean to them, because that's why I do this sport. I don't necessarily do it for myself. I talk a lot about, the training and all this and how much I love it, but I do it for other people. I do it for the community. I do it for, the people I coach, all those different things, because man, it's just, that's what this sport is about. It's about community, and it's about just everybody coming together and being connected and accomplishing a goal.
Yes. Love that. The brand stuff that you mentioned is cool. We're at a point where you see people that are working at brands that have relationships with athletes, like crewing and pacing. I've seen Sally, one of your teammates with Koros, I believe, at a bunch of races where Shelby's out there and at all these people are just crewing and pacing, and it's so cool to see. What's it like to work with an army of people that's just there for you?
Yeah, as a team. You have to surround yourself with a team. And to be honest with you, I have an amazing team. Starting with Hoka. Hoka's just been incredible for me over the years. They've supported me, in my low times and in my high times. They brought me back after I left actually for a year or two. And to say, for a brand to do that is just amazing. Hoka is just top level for brands in this sport. And I'm really, really grateful that I work with them. Like I mentioned with Precision Hydration, they're helping me work on my Western States fueling and hydration. They've had me in the lab. They were out at Canyons weighing me before and after and going through the whole process. And they're bringing out a whole crew actually to be at Western States to make sure that my nutrition's on point and to make sure I'm ready to go. That's just incredible to have a company like that. I work with Inside Tracker, and Inside Tracker's just been top notch, man. I'm getting tested, frequently to make sure all my levels are up, because running 130 miles a week in 6 days with 20 to 30,000 feet of elevation gain. You're trying to do heat training. You're trying to do all that on top of that. That's a lot of stress, and it's a lot on the body. And the body requires a lot. It asks a lot from you, and you need to give it what it needs. And your levels need to be up. Your biomarkers need to be up. You need to make sure your iron's good, your magnesium's good, all these different things, right? And I've had low magnesium, I've had low iron, and being able to be tested frequently from Inside Tracker and see my levels, get to where they're optimal now. And I can feel that in the training. When my levels are optimal, I'm good.
Hayden said to me a few weeks ago, he's like, man, I did that test a month ago and I made some changes and now I'm feeling good. Yeah. And disclaimer, I work for Inside Tracker and have for 8.5 years. And the point with that is it's not just for elite athletes. It's helping you do all the other stuff. Exactly. It's helping you focus on health and making sure you're not putting your health at risk while running these 130-mile weeks.
Oh, 100%. And that's more important to me than anything. Like I want to, at the end of the day, I still need to be a dad, and at the end of my career, I still want to be able to be healthy and survive and spend time with my kids as they grow up. And so to make sure that I'm healthy throughout this whole career and this process is really important to me, and then Kouros, you mentioned Kouros with Sally. Like Kouros has just been incredible. Like, recently I did a project with them here in Boulder where we introduced a new upgrade on the app where I can map out all of my routes. And that's been key for me here in Boulder because
you don't get lost.
Exactly. Because this is a new place for me. I moved here 3 months ago. In Utah, I had
taken every crown on all the trails.
No.
Every time I open Strava, I'm like, Hayden has taken, CR here and 8th here.
But it's awesome, right? Like to have companies like this, like Kouros that are helping me with my training. They're helping me get to where I want to be. And I'm just so lucky to have so many people in my corner. There's a lot of other brands I can mention, Dry Max, Squirrel's Nut Butter. I work with them as well. And Kearns. Kearns is actually a new company I've been working with based out of New Zealand. It's a supplement company. Black Currant is a really health benefit, and it's a very potent black currant that Kearns uses that they harvest in New Zealand. And I'll be honest with you, ever since I started taking that a few months ago, it works. I've been feeling great, man. I've been feeling really great. But yeah, I don't want to talk here and talk about all my sponsors and plug that. But what I'm trying to say is a team is very important. And surrounding yourself with a team is very important. Like when I pick sponsors or when I pick crew members or I pick, people to be on my team, I don't focus on the money. I don't focus on, what can they do for me? I focus on being around people that I enjoy being around and that are invested in me as an athlete and invested in me as a person. And they believe in me as a person, not just as an athlete. They let me be organic. They let me be the person I need to be. Because if I can't be the person that I want to be and that I need to be, I'm never going to, accomplish the goals that I have. Because again, it comes down to balance. Balance is key. And I have to be balanced in all that I do.
Did you get to some point where this is your perspective, or has this always been how Hayden operates?
I think there was a time, I've kind of always been this way. But there was a time, I think in college, when I was running at the university, where I was a bit selfish, to be honest with you. I could tell that I was selfish. I was so focused just on myself. I didn't care about anybody around me. And it took my family, my parents and my brother to kind of say hey, dude, you need to settle down a bit. You're pushing us out of your life by, being so focused and so dialed in that you don't really care about anything else in life. And it hit me hard. And I was like, that's not the person I want to be. And so I changed. I changed and I actually started volunteering and helping out more people because I said, well, I want to do the total opposite of that. And I'm going to force myself to become that way. And so I did. I forced myself. And I think sometimes you got to do that to become the person that you want to be. And so that's what I did. And at first, it probably was more the good or the better motivation, but then it became the best motivation for me. And I got to a point where I feel like I was balanced and I feel like I was the person that I wanted to be. And I made a promise to myself that that's who I was going to be. Because at the end of the day, I want to be Hayden Hawks, the person that people love to be around, that people enjoy to be around, that is helpful and doing the best that he can in life. Like, I don't want to just be known as Hayden Hawks, the runner. I want people to treat me as Hayden Hawks, the person, not just Hayden Hawks, the runner. And that means more to me than anything. And so that's who I strive to be. And as I did that, I actually got better as an athlete.
That last sentence is what I want people to take away from what you just said, because it's counterintuitive that when you pull back, you can spring forward, right? We're like the slingshot analogy or bow and arrow. I know you like that kind of stuff as well. And it's a perfect metaphor, right? Pull back to spring forward. And when you zoom out of this laser focus of, I must do this one thing really, really well, you can end up doing that one thing really, really well, but like you'll do other things really, really well as well. I'm curious how you would define success. What is success to you?
Success. Yeah, I think we've kind of talked a little bit about it, at the beginning of this podcast. It's success for me is motivating, inspiring, helping others. We talked about Seb being here. Like, I hope that I can be a good example to him, and the younger generation. That's success to me, and if that means I get to go win Western States, great. But if I don't, but I still inspire people, then I'm successful. If I can inspire my kids, then I'm successful. And I think that is, I guess, success to me. I sometimes think I can come off to some people, maybe, I don't know about cocky, but maybe a little cocky, maybe a little arrogant. But I try not to be that way. I think it's more confidence. I'm very confident in myself. I'm very confident in myself as a person. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of much things because I feel very successful in life. I feel like I'm very balanced. And I think that's what spurs on a lot of that confidence. It spurs on a lot of that, I guess, no fear, is knowing that, I feel pretty good about life. I feel pretty good that I'm doing the right things. And I think if I'm doing the right things, I'm successful as a person.
Cool. Did you know we're on YouTube? We're posting quick clips of the top takeaways from each episode. Now through June 19th, subscribe to our channel to enter to win a year's worth of Puma shoes. All subscribers are entered to win automatically. Head to youtube.com/@forthelongrunpodcast and subscribe. Yes, you do need to include the @ symbol. This episode of For the Long Run podcast is sponsored by Puma. For 75 years, Puma has been pushing sports and culture forward with innovative design and development. We are honored to have Puma supporting this show and supporting the running community at large. My greatest compliment for running shoe is, I didn't think about it once. The purpose of having the right gear is to enable you to do anything you want out there. When I'm running in Puma's DV8 Nitro First Mile, all I'm thinking about is literally anything else. I think about the community, I think about why trying hard things is so rewarding, I think about how cute Alfie is, and I think about how much I love tacos, and I think about the big things like how I want to leave each place I inhabit better than I found it. You know what I'm not thinking about? What's on my feet. And that's the best thing about Puma running shoes. They're designed to help you get out there effortlessly so you don't have to worry about what's on your feet. Just need to worry about putting one foot in front of the other. Check out a pair for yourself at puma.com and use the code FORTHELONGRUN, all one word, for 20% off. Again, when you support Puma, you're supporting me and the rest of the podcast team. Thanks again to Puma for supporting us. We are proud to be sponsored by a local Boulder-based sports nutrition company that we all know and love, Scratch Labs. As you may know, last year I went to their facility here in Boulder and got a sweat test done. They were able to tell me how much salt I'm losing during a workout and recommend sports nutrition from there. Long story short, I'm a salty sweater and need to replenish perhaps more than the average person. But that's not all. About a year ago, I started working with sports dietitian Kylie Van Horn. Kylie is the owner of Fly Nutrition and a coach within Microcosm. I was having a lot of GI issues pre-run and during the run, so David, my coach, suggested I work on nutrition with Kylie. I switched my nutrition pre-run to purely liquid fueling, and while that didn't solve 100% of what I'd been dealing with, it sure has helped. Fast forward a year and more, and Scratch's products have helped keep me fueled and energized through plenty of strong workouts and long runs, as well as some big adventure days in the mountains. Their super high carb mix is exactly that. It's full of what you need and goes down super smooth. When you give your body what it needs, you'll truly enjoy it for the long run. You can grab energy bars, chews, hydration mix, recovery drink mix, and super high carb drink mixes for your big days from scratch to fuel your training and upcoming adventures. I use the lemon lime super high carb mix every single day. I use a half serving within an hour of all morning runs, and it's my main fuel source for road long runs. For trail adventures, I use a couple servings in my bottles and supplement that with the chews or other fun trail snacks. You can use the code FTLR20 for 20% off your order at the link in the show notes. Thanks again to Scratch for supporting the show. So you mentioned fears and lack of fears in certain capacities where many people are afraid of some of the things you referenced. Last summer, I guess 2 summers ago, I had a conversation with Gwen Jorgensen on the podcast around similar topics: success, growth, failure, etc. Gwen is a gold medal Olympian in triathlon. And what she said was, I wasn't afraid of failure. I was afraid of success, right? Like she trained her whole life for one day and then it happened.
Yeah.
Like everything that she had ever dreamt of, winning an Olympic gold medal in triathlon, she did.
Yeah.
And then what? And so the and then what piece is super fascinating. And like when we sat down, I was like, I'm not so much interested in like talking about your feelings when you crossed the finish line of the triathlon in Rio, talking about what happened the next day. And so I'm wondering if there are any parallels for you, or is this even something you've thought about? Like, let's say you win Western States, let's say you win Leadville, let's say you win Javelina, if we can look that far out. Like, what are you thinking about the next day?
I don't know if I've thought too much about that. I mean, I want to do everything.
We talked about that.
I'm the type of person who wants to travel. I want to travel to every country. I want to run every race in the world, you know? And the great thing about ultra running and my sport is there's a lot of races out there. I don't think I'll ever accomplish everything. And so, yeah, like, I don't know if I've ever really thought about that, because there's always something more, I think. Like, even if I won everything in the world, which is not going to happen, it's not possible. Like, there's still so many cool adventures I could do. You know, there's still so many like things within those goals that I could do. Like maybe I win Western States, but then I'm like, I want to improve on my time at Western States, or I want to break the course record, or whatever it is, right? Like there's always a goal you can set. And so honestly, like I haven't really thought like, oh, what happens if I win this? Is it over? It's not over. Like I'm 32 years old, man. Like I still have a long life to live, and I have a lot of things that I want to do, and I plan on doing as many of them as I possibly can.
So I think a lot of people struggle with the like ever evolving goalpost analogy of like you set a goal and you achieve it, and you set a goal and you achieve it, and you're just never really satisfied. You seem to be the complete opposite, where like the goals are just check boxes and they're just things that happen along the way. For someone who's listening and they're like, man, I wish I had an approach like that, what do you say to them to help inspire them to get to a place where this could be their reality as well? Maybe they're not winning Western States in Leadville, but they're out there crushing their 5K time, or they're running a 50 miler for the first time they've ever run.
Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from, again, my confidence that I talked about, but I think it comes a lot from not putting so much pressure on one thing or one goal. I don't put a lot of pressure on myself, because what's the point in putting pressure on myself, right? I can only control what I can control. So I guess that's the advice I'd give to people is control what you can control. Don't focus on what you can't control, because there's a lot of things that you can't control, you know, in a race or in life. And why would you spend so much time and so much energy focusing on things that you can't control and stress yourself out and put all this pressure on yourself? You know, I see a lot of people putting so much pressure on themselves about a race to the point where they're literally throwing up before the race, and they shut down. They completely shut down. But the reason being is they're thinking about all the uncontrollables, you know. But if you focus on the controllables, like the process, the nutrition, you know, oh, I cannot go out too fast today, or I can focus on making sure I get enough carbohydrates in, or I can focus on my hydration. Then all those other things that you can't control, actually, you don't even think about them, because you're so focused on the things that you can control. And so I would say do that. Focus on what you can control. Like that's what I'm doing at States. That's what I do every race. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. And sometimes those thoughts, creep in. Sometimes unconfident thoughts creep in. But I try and push them out with, again, coming back and combating and being like, what can I control? Oh, I can't control that. So I'm going to push that out. But I can control this. And so that's what I'm going to focus on.
One of the things that you said today that's sort of in line with that we talked a little bit about on Bobo is that you're not afraid of death. And maybe that helps you as a runner. I'm curious to hear more about that.
I think a lot of that stems from my faith, my relationship, with my faith, my relationship with my family. I have a very close relationship with my parents, my brother, my wife. And I don't know, I think we just believe we know where we're going, after this life. And a lot of that stems from my faith. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If people wanted to know that, I'm a Christian and I really, truly believe in it 100%. And I think that my relationship with that helps me not fear death because I've had reassurance. I've had this confirmation that I know where I'm going. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm helping other people, and I'm being a good person in this life, I know where I'm going to go. And I feel very close with God. I feel very close with my family. And I do think that helps me as an athlete as well, because it helps me to, I guess, just, yeah, if you don't fear death, like death is the number one thing that people fear, right? And I don't fear that. So it's like, well, what is there to fear? And there's not a lot to fear. Like there are some fears I have, like stuff happened to I guess, I don't know, like my kids suffering or something like that. That would I definitely fear stuff like that. But like, there's not a lot that I fear because, I know personally, like I can conquer anything with the strength of my faith and the strength of my family and the people that surround me. And I think that helps me a lot to go into these really hard situations, these really painful race situations or training runs or whatever it is, and know that like, this isn't nothing, like it is what it is. Like it's,
in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah. And it's okay to feel pain. Honestly,
Yeah.
Like it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like I'm okay being uncomfortable because that's life. And honestly, being uncomfortable is fine. Like why be dramatic in that situation, right? Exactly. I'm choosing to do this. Like if I'm choosing to do this, I need to accept it and be okay with it.
So much so, many people are listening are familiar with Magnolia Road in Boulder. Do you want to share what you did a few weeks ago out there?
Well, yeah, I had a good session up there. It was pretty good. And I'm going up there this weekend.
Nice.
On Saturday, and I'll do another session, and I'll probably do another really big run up there. But I did a 34 miler on mags. So a double mags plus a little bit more. A pretty solid effort, and mags sits at close to 9,000 feet or 9,000 feet. So it's pretty high elevation. But yeah, like that's my jam. I love that stuff. Like rolling dirt roads up at high altitude. That's one of my favorite workouts that I can do. It's actually, I look forward to doing that type of work. And so this weekend, I'm actually doing a 25 miler up there, probably a little faster than I went last time. And then in the coming weeks, I'll probably do another 30 to 35 miler up there at a similar pace. It's very, very Western States specific. It makes you strong. And I really look forward to doing that type of work.
I never made the connection to the Western States specificity. That makes tons of sense. It's funny that marathoners love it as well.
Yeah.
It's just like a brutal route, and it's good no matter what. It's good strength. You can get in a rhythm, and then it's broken up with an uphill, and then you're downhill again. And when we talked about what you did, I was like, wait a minute. So you did the double, and then you went out for 2 more miles, and then came back. That's the hardest part. And you're like, yeah, that's the point.
Exactly. Like, it was funny the other day, I was running with Matt and we did a big route here in the Front Range, on the flat irons. And I came up with the route and we were running down and we had like finished the hard part of the route. And then we were coming across the Mesa Trail, which is a little bit easier than doing some of the big mountain stuff. And we dropped down again and then climbed back up. And Matt was like, why the heck did you throw that in there? And I was like, because, dude, it makes us stronger. It makes us tough. And it's hard, not just physically, but it's hard mentally to do something like that. Because if we just kept on the flat or the rolling all the way back, it'd be easy. We wouldn't have to think about it. We just run back and it'd be good. But throwing that little extra climb in there makes it a little bit harder and makes you have to think about it, makes you have to mentally dig just a little bit. And those type of things, I like doing those things in my work, in my running, because that's the type of things that you'll encounter in an ultra. Those are the type of moments that I'm going to have in Western States. When I'm running down Cal Street to the river, there's that little hill there, not a little, but it's a pretty dang steep hill that you have to do right before the river. And it gets everybody because they're not expecting that, but it's a pretty steep climb. And I want to be prepared for that hill so that it doesn't affect me, not just physically, but mentally. And so that's why I do those type of things. And everything's very specific with how I train and how I set up my training with my coach. Is we get very specific because we want to meet the demands of the race that we're training for. And so that's why we do MAGS 1 week, which is rolling dirt road, which Western States has a lot of rolling dirt road at high altitude. And then the next week, we might do a big mountain day, which would mimic the canyons at Western States, which is very verty, very, single track trail, a little bit technical in some sections. And so you have to do both. You have to train for both. And you have to put yourself in these situations so that when you get there on race day, you're ready for the demands that the race is putting at you.
The way that you describe this, it just sounds like you're just a dude that is out there playing in nature.
Yeah,
you feel fun. That?
It's fun, dude. I enjoy so much putting together a training plan with my coach. I enjoy so much getting on my Coros app or online and mapping out a route and seeing exactly where I'm going to run and kind of putting it all together on all right, this is specific to this part of Western States. This is specific to this part of Western States. I enjoy that so much. And I enjoy being in the mountains. Yes, I'm like a little kid, man. Honestly, I really enjoy what I do for a living. I enjoy the process and I feel like a little kid sometimes, when I'm up there in the mountains, jumping from rock to rock, eating. I'm fueling with pretty much candy. It's not candy, but gels and stuff like that. And it's pretty much just candy. So I am a kid. I'm playing in the mountains. I'm getting dirty. I'm getting muddy. I'm eating candy. If this is what it means, I don't want to ever grow up, right? This is who I want to be for the rest of my life because it's an amazing life. It really is. It's so fun.
And all the ice baths you take.
All the ice baths. Yeah, exactly. I don't take ice baths, dude. I don't like it. Oh, man. I do not. That is one thing I don't like. And maybe that's one thing I do fear. I fear cold water. I do not like cold water. I'm just maybe I'm too skinny. I don't know. But it's just, I get cold really, really easy, especially in cold water. I definitely prefer the sauna more.
So you've done a lot of research around sauna. You've talked to a lot of people about sauna and you do a lot of sauna use. Talk to me about how you're using that to train for Western States and life in general.
Yeah. So doing a heat protocol is very, very important for Western States because Western States is a hot race. It starts at altitude. It starts in the mountains and it's usually 40, 50 degrees Fahrenheit when you start. But then when you finish, when you get down towards Auburn, California there, it's 100 plus degrees. And that's what makes Western States so hard is not just how hot it is, but the change in temperature because your body has to learn to adapt and adjust, right? Going from a 60 to 70 degree swing in temperature. And it just freaks out when it has to go through that process. And so I have learned over the years that heat training is very important. I use a sauna quite a bit and I've kind of upped my tolerance and I've upped my heat protocol every year. So the first year I only did 2 weeks of heat training. Last year I was doing 4 weeks of heat training, but getting in the sauna maybe every day for 3 weeks before. And then 4 weeks out, I was doing every other day. This week I upped it even a bit more. Well, first I was down in New Zealand for the whole winter and Australia in the hot weather down there. And so that helped. And when I got home, I started doing the sauna every other day. So I've done sauna every other day, March, April, and beginning of May now. I was doing it every day before canyons, the 2 weeks before canyons, just to make sure I was ready for the heat that was going to be there. And now I'm doing a 6-week protocol where I will jump in the sauna every day for 6 weeks leading into.
How much water are you drinking?
Yeah, that's the one thing is right. Making sure you're hydrating. I hydrate a ton. I'll drink a full bottle while I'm in the sauna.
Hayden's peed twice during this podcast.
Yeah.
His chair is very
I need
wet.
to go right now. No. And then I'll drink a full bottle after with electrolytes. And yeah, it's just like and I feel really heat adapted. I mean, the sauna is not too hard for me now. And I feel like that could come into play really well. Like I actually got this from there's a guy that just won the PTO championship in triathlon named Max Newman. He's an Australian guy. I listened to a podcast with him about his heat protocol. And I was like, all right, he's doing it right way. He was talking about how before Kona, he was doing 6 to 8 week protocols. And I was like, well, that's what I need to be doing. Like 2's not enough. And so I started adjusting it. We started talking to my coach about it, started talking to you about it. You've actually given me a lot of good information. And we've put it all together. And I will be doing also in this build to West Brazil, I'll be doing a week-long trip to the Grand Canyon. I'll be staying on the South Rim and doing a bunch of dips down into the canyon, a bunch of runs, big week of training, just getting used to that change in temperature and having a good heat week down in the Grand Canyon.
Your oldest name is Crosby, right?
Yeah, that's my son. Yeah.
What does Crosby think about all this? Is he old enough to understand what's going on?
Yeah, kind of. He's so full of energy, man. I mean, like that dude is so amazing. He loves he loves like aspects of what I do for a living. Sometimes he wonders like, why does dad always have to go running? Or why can't dad stay home and play with me more? Why can't dad, wrestle with me more or whatever it is? And I do the best that I possibly can, of course, but like I try to involve him a lot with my career because that's what my dad did with me is he involved me in everything in his life. Even if it was going to take him 2 hours longer to fix the car or whatever it was, he would involve me in that and be like, hey, Hayden, come over here. I want you to help me with this. And so when I became a dad, I was like, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to involve my son with everything and I'm going to involve him with my career. I try and take my family with me as much as possible when I travel to races because of that reason, because I want them to be involved in this process as well. But with my son Crosby, he likes to jump in the sauna with me every now. I don't let him stay in for 30 minutes, of course, just for a little bit. And then he loves like when we do these Sunday family hikes or, I have like a date with him or whatever it's called. We'll go out on the trails because he loves bombing down trails. Like he's probably one of the most like one of the best technical 5-year-old trail runners I've ever met.
Gotta get some Hokas on him.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Hoka just came out with new kids shoes. So, but anyways, he would, he doesn't like the up. I love the up. The up's my specialty. But he loves the down. And so I'll kind of push him up the up and then he'll push me on the downs and we have fun out on the trails together.
Nice. Speaking of heat training, the GoPro here overheated. So I think it could use some practice in the sauna, but I love that. It's like, again, it's the aspect of play and everything you've described. I get to meet a lot of professional athletes and there are a lot of people who are incredibly dialed and and this is both road and trail. And some people it's like, are you really enjoying this? And then there's the other end of the spectrum with you and I don't know if you heard Grayson Murphy on the Swap podcast.
Utah girl.
Exactly.
I'm a Utah boy. So.
And Grayson on that podcast, it was all about fun. And I messaged David about it and I was like, this was incredible to listen to. And he was like, it's so cool to hear because of the backstory that goes to it. And it's this evolution of her point was, she feels that we're at the beginning or something of this evolution where there's a return to focus on fun and that success is, are you having fun? And you're able to be more successful if you're having fun. And so it's so cool to see I mean, she won 2 championships in the same weekend,
Yeah.
and here's someone, and you're aspiring to win Western States. So it's not like, you're out, doing your neighborhood 5K, but it's like, this is actually leading to outcomes that people are striving for in the same process.
Exactly.
And that, I love that.
Yeah, you have to enjoy going to work every day, and you have to enjoy your job if you really want to, see the biggest things happen in your job, and it's not just Grayson. I mean, Grayson, yeah, she has so much fun with it. You can tell. Courtney Dauwalter has a ton of fun with it. Killian, Francois, even Jim. Jim has a lot of fun with it. Jim's always putting together these cool routes and putting together his training, and he has fun doing that. And I don't think it's a secret. Like you have to have fun. Like all of the best athletes in the world, Adam Peterman, that dude has so much fun up in Montana. Like we all have fun. And I think that's why we're at the top of the sport. We're professional. Don't get me wrong. Even Courtney, Courtney puts off like she doesn't, focus on things or whatever, but she's very dialed and she's very professional about things. And I think all of us are, but we also know how to have fun. And we also know how to just enjoy the process and and I guess not take it too serious, when we need to, but also take it serious when we do need to. And I think it's finding that balance of doing that.
What would you say to the 22-year-old, so 10 years ago version of Hayden, or maybe the 14-year-old version of Hayden, for Seb sitting here, about how to, like a how-to, or the biggest learning from the last X number of years?
Yeah. It's probably kind of what we've just been talking about, having fun, not taking it too serious, finding that balance. I took it, like I said, when I made that mistake in college, I was taking it too serious. I was at a point where I didn't like myself. And honestly, I knew that I wasn't balanced and I wasn't in a good situation. And I needed to change. And, I was kind of a hothead. I'd get really pissed off about having a bad workout. And I would sit there and dwell on it for days and be like, oh, how am I supposed to win this race, if I can't even hit my workout? Or, I would get mad when I wasn't getting my fueling down, or I would get mad when I didn't hit exact mileage for the week or whatever it was. And as soon as I put that aside and said, hey man, like, don't get so pissed off about all this stuff. Like just take it as it comes and focus on the process. Like I became a better runner. I became more consistent, because I even at the beginning of my career, I was a bit inconsistent, especially in some racing. And I think it was because of that, because I was so hot and cold, and I wasn't able to stay warm the whole time. And now I feel like I'm very warm and, I can turn it up when I need to and get hot. But I never get cold. I stay pretty warm most of the time because I stay very level-headed and I stay very consistent. And also just the importance of not doing hero work. When I was younger, did a lot of hero work. I was trying to go all out in workouts and trying to hit these exact splits and force things. I was forcing things. And now I don't do that. I don't force things. Like I work hard and I push hard and I hit splits when I need to. Occasionally I'll break a Strava crown, like you said. I don't focus on that though. I focus on getting a quality session in. And if for some reason I just can't hit the pace that day or it feels out of control, then I dial it back and I get under control and I try and stay level and I try not to do hero work and just be consistent day in and day out.
Awesome. Both of the cameras have officially died, so feel free to make googly eyes or whatever faces you want. But for those who are listening on the audio version, I guess you wouldn't be watching on the video version because the cameras are dead. But we got a YouTube. We've got we're gonna have a 5-ish minute compilation of the top tips from this episode. So check that out over there. But back to Hayden. So you've mentioned Matt a bunch of times. Matt's not the only one you're training with out here in Boulder with the Boulder Boys. Talking about that.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man. That's one of the reasons why we moved out here in the first place is, I really wanted to take advantage of these years in my career, and I've been in team sports before. I grew up playing baseball. I loved baseball. I loved the team aspect of baseball.
See a Red Sox game later this summer.
I'm a big Red Sox fan. Yeah, I went to a Rockies game last weekend. Had a good time there. Took my son to his first baseball game, which was kind of a special moment. But yes, the Sox are my team. I'm an avid Sox fan. But anyways, I love the team aspect of sport. I've been watching the NBA playoffs right now, and it's just really cool. I'm a big sports fan. And so like that was been always my thing is like, I would love to have a team. I'd love to have people to train with, see if that helps up my game and helps up their game. And we can just have fun with it, because like I talked about community before, community is so important to me and the community of this sport. And that's what having training partners is community. And it's just awesome to have that. And so I said, well, where do I want to go? And I've been really good friends with Matt for years, Andy Wacker as well, who lives here in Boulder. They actually helped introduce me to the sport of trail running. And I said, I'd really love to train with Matt full time, and they had a little group going on out here with the Boulder boys, Adam Mary, Drew Holman, Seth Ruling. And I was like, I think Boulder's the place we need to go. We kind of wanted a little bit of a change, new scenery. So we came out here and it's just been really cool, man. Like hitting those 130-mile weeks is easy when you have people to do it with. I shouldn't say easy, but easier. But it's just really fun, man, too. We have a lot of fun with it. I mostly train with Matt Daniels and Adam Mary. Recently, actually been doing some runs with Jonathan Rea here in town. And he's a talent and he's just an awesome guy, man. Like that dude is so cool. Like I really, really enjoy running with John. And then, I have some friends coming out actually to stay with me again. Like I like to help people out and involve people in my training. And so my friend Dan Jones from New Zealand is actually going to come out and stay with me for a month leading into States.
Cool.
He's coming out next week and we'll be doing a lot of training together. And again, it's just that camaraderie, that team kind of concept where we're out here, we're pushing hard, we're working hard, but we're having fun doing it.
And you're helping me get pretty fit with all those easy miles you run too.
Yeah, and I run with you too. Sorry, dude, I forgot to mention you. But I run with Jonathan Levitt as well.
Who's that
He's
guy?
A crusher, the Bobo Link crusher. That's what we'll start calling you from now on. The Bobo Link boss. There we go.
I got to get out on the actual trails, but starting this weekend and going forward, that's for sure.
But it's great. I mean, it's great to have you on the doubles, man. And then we come out and do a hot sauna session here. And that's just really...
If he licks your legs,
great.
and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. My salty legs get cleaned. So
I think my last question is more of a fun one. So this episode is out in June, in a couple of weeks. Hopefully you'll be running Western States. If someone sees you out on the course, what do you want them to say?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I'll probably say something to them, to be honest with you. I love talking when I'm out running, I guess kind of setting the tone of the day and just being nice because I'm really grateful for the volunteers and the race organizers and everybody out there, spectators out there on the course cheering us on. That's what makes Western States so cool. And those are the real heroes of the race, really. They put in so much work, so much time, have to deal with that heat. It's just incredible what they put in. And so, I don't know, man, maybe they can they can pat their own back. Maybe they don't have to cheer me on. Maybe they could cheer themselves on. And that would actually mean more to me than anything. But yeah, I guess if they want to say something, encourage me on, and just maybe just, like give me a smile. That always brightens my day up and helps me. And I think anything like that, we'll do. But honestly, I would say that they're the real heroes out there.
So if you see Hayden out there on the course, pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, pat yourself on the back. I'll know what that
really
means.
Animated.
I'll know what that means, man. And that would be awesome. That would actually make me smile and make me laugh even. So, and laughing and smiling has been shown to really help when you're hurting or when you're in that type of situation. So,
oh man, I can't wait to hear about how many people that pat themselves on the back.
Pat themselves on the back.
Really like doing it up. Hayden, this has been a blast. Let's go jump in the sauna and I appreciate the chat here.
All right, dude, and go Sox.
Go Sox. Go Celtics. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next time on For the Long Run. And in the meantime, happy trails. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too. This podcast and the accompanying music has been produced by Brian Walters of Single Track Sound. For the Long Run's logo was created by Vanessa Wolf of Sterling Wolf. Show notes have been written by Ruby Wiles and is managed by Emily Holland. It takes a village.